Good morning. Happy Monday. It's a new week. It's another day and we're still breathing. I say that every week. I think I say it like before people arrive. So it's sort of like my catchphrase, but no one knows. Not that there's that many people that join these sessions anyway, but you know. Okay. So, I'll just close this cupboard. So, I hope you had a lovely weekend and you're back ready to get back into action now that it's Monday. So we're gonna just start as we normally do. We're gonna stand with our feet hip distance apart. So if you don't know how to find out what that is, you can feel around, find your actual hip bone, and you're gonna point your fingers down where the actual hip bone is. And then you want your big toe to be directly underneath your hips, directly underneath where you're pointing. We're going to have our weight equally distributed between our big toe, the outside of our foot, and our heel. And we're going to feel like we've got a string coming out of the top of our head. Week 7, I know, it's crazy, isn't it? It doesn't feel like that long. But hopefully people can start feeling some improvements if you've been doing it regularly. I know I have, even though I have been doing these exercises, you know, I kind of had some training, but, you know, I didn't sort of do them every day before, so yeah, I'm definitely feeling a little bit better, so I hope you are too. So yeah, string out the top of our head. We want to try and feel like we've got a nice long neck, straight spine, shoulders down, and just in general, even in just your everyday life, if you can just try and be mindful of your posture, and just try and, you know, correct all the little bad habits that creep in occasionally. You know, if you've been watching before, you'll know, because I keep saying it, and you've probably seen it as well, even when I haven't. My head tends to go back like this, I lift my shoulders. Those are two main problems for me. So we're going to try and just stay nice, and you want to be like as sort of as tall as you possibly can. Check there's nothing around you that you can bang into. Just angle this slightly differently. Okay, and we want our knees to just be slightly bent. I mean, if you're able to have straight legs without locking your knees tight, then great. But for most people, including me, when your legs are completely straight, your knees tend to lock, and that causes the tension. I'm sort of demonstrating with my elbow. I know that's my elbow, not my knee. But you can't really see my knee in these baggy trousers. Okay, so we're just going to swing from our hips and just allow our arms to just be completely floppy, and they're just going to smack around. Awesome. Simon's just, I don't know if you can see these comments, but Simon's just saying that he does feel better, especially his neck and jaw, which is awesome, because those are actually two places as well that are very common. I tend to, when I'm stressed as well, I'll grind my teeth, and that's really bad, not just for your teeth, but the tension in your jaw that it causes. I've had some really bad headaches from that, and then when you just sort of relax your jaw, it kind of goes away, but it takes a while to be able to relax it, because when the sort of tension is so deeply embedded that it's actually causing you pain, it's not actually that easy to just relax. So all these things, you know, help work towards that, hopefully. Okay, and shake it out. I imagine lots of people are feeling a little bit more stressed at the moment, because as we're sort of coming out of lockdown, even though it's obviously really good, it's also very different, and change, even good change, is quite nerve-wracking, and then you feel a bit silly for feeling stressed about it. But so all these things hopefully can help just work towards being able to focus on what we want to focus on. Okay, so again, as you know, if you've been to a few of these sessions, I'm trying to go through different body parts each week, just so that if we get to a body part that you particularly hold tension in, that might help you. So we've come down the arms, so we're going to come back to this section here, and we're going to do an isolation exercise with our ribs. Excuse me. So first we're going to try and, you can put your hands on your hips if you like, if that helps you. We want to only move this area here of our rib cage. And we're going to bring it forward and come back to the center. So forward, center, and then back, center. Forward, center, back, center. And we want to try and keep everything else completely still. It's called an isolation exercise. Forward, center, back, center, and straight through. You can add some arm movements if that helps you. But really we're sort of focusing on the isolation. So then we're going to go side to side, come back to the center, and we're going to go right, center, left, center. We want to try and avoid tilting too much or doing any sort of funny things. It's very difficult if you've never done it before, but gradually, like if this is the first time you're doing this, then hopefully by the end of the week, if you join every day, you'll be able to do it, because it does take a little bit of time, and it definitely helps if you look in the mirror for this one, because especially when you're doing unusual things, even unusual to you anyway, or maybe it is unusual, I don't know, but it definitely helps to see what your body's doing, because quite often it feels like you're doing something correctly, but actually it's not, so that helps. Okay, so now we're going to go forward, right, back, left, forward, left, back, right. So we're making this sort of box shape. And all the while we just want to try to keep everything else still. I'm maybe not the best person to demonstrate because I'm not sure I'm doing it perfectly, but I hope you sort of get the idea of what we're trying to do here. And just do the best that you can. And so now we're going to smooth it out, and we're just going to try and make so we were making like a square before, now we're trying to make a circle. Just circle it round and the other way. Very good, and shake it out. Okay, so feet hip distance apart again. Knees slightly bent, string coming out, nice long neck, string coming out the top of our head. And we're just going to breathe, but the way that I want you to try and think about your breathing is to push the air out of your lungs and then just relax and allow the air to come back in. So whilst you're doing that, I'm going to talk you through it. So for anybody that's new, and even people who've done this before, it never hurts to just recap on what's going on. So underneath your ribs, if you don't know where that is exactly, you can sort of feel around, you can feel the bones, and underneath these bottom ribs is where this big muscle that's sort of a bit like a tarpaulin kind of sits underneath the rib cage like this. So when we breathe out, it's going to push all the air, it's going to sort of squeezes the air out of your lungs, and then when we're going to breathe in, instead of actively taking in a breath, I want you to just try and relax and allow the diaphragm to just drop down. So it'll drop down to here, and then your lungs will sort of fill with air in a kind of hydraulic system, like if you imagine a syringe, or if you had a bottle, like a bubble bath bottle that's empty in the bath, and then you hold it under the water and you squeeze it, and all the air comes out, and then when you let go, it will just sort of fill, well, I guess in that case with water, but the point is that it's the relaxation that drops the diaphragm and just allows the air to come back in. So we're not actively taking in a breath, we're actively pushing the breath out and then relaxing. So it's kind of the opposite of what you would normally think of when you're breathing. So we're going to push the air out and then relax, drop the diaphragm, and the air comes back in. So in a minute, we're going to add some arm movements that are going to kind of mirror what's happening inside. So when we breathe out, we're going to bring our hands up like this. And then when we relax and drop our diaphragm, our hands are going to come down. That represents the diaphragm dropping. And then we're going to bring our arms all the way up like this. to sort of represent as the rib cage expands as it fills with air, as the lungs fill with air. So first of all, we're just gonna sort of get into our little rhythm with our breathing, and we're gonna bend and straighten our legs. Again, you don't need to fully straighten your legs if that causes tension, and I don't want any kind of jerky, we just in and out, in and out. And on the next one, we'll add some arm movements. So, out, in, push, relax, push, drop the diaphragm, open the rib cage, push, relax. Very good. And the next one will go to the side. Make sure you bend your knees in between. Very good. And shake it out. Just gonna have a sip of water. Okay. So this next exercise is going to be a little bit of a stress relief one. It's not as useful for singing, other than it's still kind of controlling your breathing. We're going to do the box breathing, which is breathing in for 4, holding for 4, out for 4, holding for 4. This one is quite good for stress. You can kind of do it anywhere, and you know, you're not doing anything crazy with your body outwardly, or you know, making any sounds. So even if it's like you're, you know, going back to work or something and you're having a little moment, you can just do this without anybody really noticing. So we're just going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. Very good. Okay, so we just have a nice big yawn. And stretch. Try and remember that nice open throat feeling. That's very good for singing, if that's interesting to you. Okay, so we're going to stand with our feet hip distance apart. You can sit down if you want to, but still remember the same principle. So we don't want you to cross your legs or hold your knees together. It's as if you're standing with your feet hip distance apart, but just sitting down, sort of thing. Still have the string coming out the top of your head, shoulders down, nice long neck. The idea is, in general, we just don't want any muscles to be working that don't need to be working, because all this excess tension, like I said, for a start it can be painful, but also it's just exhausting, and we don't need that extra energy getting wasted on just, you know, standing like this, which, you know, this is one of my bad habits, and you know, it doesn't look great, it doesn't feel great in the look, even if you're used to it, and so it kind of feels comfortable to you. It's actually, you know, if you can get yourself used to standing in a better position, in the end it does feel better. Okay, so we're just going to channel a breath. We're going to find a spot on the wall that is roughly our own eye height. so that we don't have to be sort of looking up or looking down. Again, if you're able to be looking in a mirror whilst you do these exercises, that's perfect, because not only can you notice more easily when bad habits kind of creep in, but you can just look into your own eyes, and that's the perfect height already. So we're going to channel the breath to that spot, and this time we're going to just really try and squeeze all the air out of our lungs. So it'll be something like this as you're channeling. So you can get started, and hopefully you can hear me over the top of, because you're only going. So I want you to really try and visualize the diaphragm pushing, 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 pushing. And when you get to the end of the breath, I want you to just try and squeeze out a little bit more air. There is almost always a tiny bit, even when you think there's nothing left, there is. Sometimes it helps, especially if you're newer to this and maybe your diaphragm isn't as strong as you would like it to be, then you can put your hands on your rib cage and actually squeeze using your hands, like your arm muscles, and you will find a little bit more air in there. Obviously, if you're feeling lightheaded or if it sort of feels uncomfortable in any way, stop or be more gentle. I mean, you know, it's okay to be out of your comfort zone because we are trying to stretch, but obviously you've got to know your own body, and as I can't be in the room with you, I can't really see what's going on. So, you know, if in doubt, then, you know, err on the cautious side, but make sure you don't use that as an excuse to be lazy. Okay, so then when you finally have all the air out of your lungs, I want you to try and hold it. If you can, just hold it for as long as you can, and then you're just going to relax. And as the diaphragm drops down, the air is going to suck back in. So again, we're not going to actively take in a breath. Almost always when you do that, it's a much shallower breath than it could be. If you just relax with your diaphragm, then it's a much deeper breath, because obviously the diaphragm is at the bottom, and so it sort of, as it drops, it sucks in more air. Whereas if you're trying to control that in breath, it's just not as deep as when you just relax. So hopefully you've already started, because I've been talking a long time. And all the while, just try and check your posture. Keep half a mind on, whatever. Hopefully you're starting to become a bit more aware of your body, and maybe, for example, clenching your bum is quite a common place to hold tension. So just make sure that that's nice and relaxed. If you need to sort of shake it out at all, or another common place is sort of here in your hands, and people sort of claw their hands a little bit. So again, if you need to just sort of specifically think of whatever it is, whatever's your personal position. Somebody was saying jaw. It's a very, very common place. In fact, maybe next week we'll do the jaw. It's very common to hold tension in your jaw. What can help just in the meantime is, like, even just if you're watching telly, try and watch telly just with your mouth open like this. So not holding it open, but just relax the jaw. Anyway, right now we're breathing, squeezing all the air out of our lungs with our diaphragm. Push, push, push. Push a bit more, then hold it, then relax, drop the diaphragm. Okay, when you get to the end of whatever breath you're on, we're going to swap to a shh sound. Same principle, you're still going to push all the air out. We're going to, when we get to the end of the breath, try and push a little bit more. Then relax, drop the diaphragm. Make sure you've got enough sort of space in your mouth, shh, so that you're not holding any breath back. And don't try and hold breath back in order to try and make your breath last longer. We're just trying to push the air out. Shh. Very good, and shake it out. Another big yawn. Okay, we'll introduce a little bit of voice. We're going to go zzzz on this next one. Very good. And just come to the end of whatever breath you're currently on. Okay, and we're going to... Okay, we're going to stand with our feet hip distance apart. Nice long neck. And we're just going to look at the spot that's our own eye level. And then I'd like you to just close your eyes. You're just going to breathe normally now. You don't have to hold it in between breaths. But what I do want you to do is to try and visualize and be aware that it's your diaphragm that's doing the work. And the way in which it's working is to push the air out. And then you just relax to drop the diaphragm and just allow the air to come back in. You're not going to take the air in. So we're just pushing, that's the energy, that's the muscle activation, is to push out the air. And then we're just going to relax and drop the diaphragm. You can breathe through your nose or your mouth or a combination of both, whatever's comfortable. But I just want you to concentrate on pushing with the diaphragm and then relaxing. Dropping the diaphragm and just allowing the air to flood back in. And you're just going to get into your own little rhythm. If you're in the room doing this with somebody else, they might be breathing in a slightly different rhythm to you. That's absolutely fine. You're just going to focus on pushing the air out of your own lungs and relaxing, dropping the diaphragm and just allowing the air to flood back in. Actually, I've been watching on YouTube, I don't know why, but because I always really like sort of marine mammals and things like this. And if you think about when a whale comes to the surface, or a dolphin, and they come to the surface, and the way that they just sort of open their, like, well, I don't know what that hole's called at the top of their head, but it's like their nose, and it's like that release where they just sort of, you can sort of see the air just sucking back in. That's kind of what we're doing here when we just relax, the diaphragm drops and the air floods back in. So whilst you're doing this, I just want you to listen and concentrate on the sounds that you can hear outside the room that you're in. So it might be traffic driving past, it might be birds tweeting, it might be the wind in the trees, it might be completely silent, and then you're going to concentrate on that silence. And you know, if there's other sounds that happen in the room that you're in, you'll hear them, but you won't listen to them. And any thoughts or stresses or other things that just pop into your head, you're not going to force them out, but you're just not going to listen to them. And you're just going to concentrate on whatever you can hear outside the room that you're in. And all the while, you're going to push with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs. And then you're just going to relax and drop the diaphragm and just allow the air to flood back in. pushing the air out of your lungs using your diaphragm, then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm, just allowing the air to flood back in. But now you're going to take one step closer with your mind, and you're just going to listen to all the sounds that you can hear inside the room that you're in. You might still hear other sounds, but you're going to concentrate on what's happening inside the room you're in. You're just going to listen to those sounds, and all the while you're going to push with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs, and then relax. Drop the diaphragm and just allow the air to flood back in. Very good. Now I want you to continue pushing the air out of your lungs using your diaphragm, then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm and just allowing the air to flood back in. But now you're going to take one step even closer with your mind, and you're just going to listen to the sounds that your own body is making. So you might be able to hear yourself breathing, you might be able to hear your own heartbeat, maybe a little tummy rumble, or you might be completely silent. Then you're going to concentrate on that silence, and all the while you're going to push with your diaphragm to squeeze the air out of your lungs, and then just relax. Drop the diaphragm and just allow the air to flood back in. So you're going to listen to your own body, the room that you're in, and the world beyond the room that you're in. And you're going to feel the connection of your own body in this space at this time, just breathing, pushing the air out of your lungs with your diaphragm, and then relaxing, dropping the diaphragm and just allowing the air to flood back in. Just slowly open your eyes, have a little look around, feel yourself in the space. Very good, excellent session everybody. Okay, so we're going to finish, as is our tradition, with a little sing-along. So this week's song is Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. So I've got the link to the lyrics in the description, so should you need them, I'll just give you a minute to open that in a new tab so you don't lose this session. And whilst you're doing that, I'll just take this opportunity to say thank you so much for joining me. Special thank you to everybody who is supporting me via Patreon or PayPal. I very much appreciate the support. Obviously, please don't feel obligated, but if you are able to, it's very much appreciated. If you've got an instrument, there's 3 chords in this song. It's B, F sharp, and E. I play E6. So yeah, let's get singing. So whilst we're singing, I want you to remember that all the out breaths, so all the actual singing, that's where the work happens, that's where we're pushing with our diaphragm. And then when we're going to take a breath in, we're just going to relax, drop our diaphragm, and the whole time as well, we want to just be trying to be mindful of our posture and all these things. Don't beat yourself up if the bad habits creep in. Just try and relax through them and gently correct them. Okay, let's get started. Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Sing and don't worry about a thing, yeah, yeah. 'Cause every little thing is gonna morning, smiled with the rising sun. 3 little birds perched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. Ooh, ooh. Singing, don't worry about a thing, yeah, yeah, yeah. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, yeah, yeah. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smiled with the rising sun. 3 little birds pitched by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. Ooh, ooh. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Singing, don't worry about a thing, yeah, yeah. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Because every little thing is gonna be alright. One more time. Because every little thing is gonna be alright. Yay! Have a great week, everybody. I will be back tomorrow and every weekday at 11 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, so hopefully I will see you again soon. In the meantime, have a great Monday, have a great week, and lots of love. Thank you for coming. Bye.